handout here, Adam?
Excuse me?
Care to go over the handout here, Adam?
Yeah.
Please do.
You'll see that in 2011, the police department budgeted $5,000 for overtime. Overtime is time paid for the result of being called out when off duty for extraordinary events, investigations. It could be a death, murder, criminal sexual investigation, arrest, court training, or it could be, city-driven events such as Rushford Days, the Spectacular, or our power outage, or it could actually be from not fully being staffed. In 2011, we actually were at $2,800 with that. We're able to control the overtime by employees voluntarily taking the compensation. Instead of taking compensation, they would take time off whenever the overtime is earned. In 2012, it was also budgeted for $5,000, and that year was $4,568 of overtime spent, and that's quite an increase from the 2011. And the reason being, in August and 2012 and September, Chief Stenskard retired. During that time, I was appointed chief, and then we had a delay also in a third officer stepping into that spot, and that spot was not filled for 2 months, which created overtime. That's why we're up at that for 2012. 2013, we're also budgeted for $5,000 of overtime. We're currently at $3,225, and it's expected to be more because of the November and December officer change. Currently, overtime in 2012 is 122 hours. 18 hours paid out after an officer left. When Chris left us, he cashed out 18 hours that he had. 76 hours paid and 28 hours so far during the change. So that's kind of a breakdown of any overtime that we have. To date, employees took time off instead of being paid overtime, 211 hours, which saved the city $6,018.78 not paid in a wage, and $956 not paid out in PRA and medical. So total, you saved $6,975.77 as a result of taking the comp time instead of working or getting paid those hours. And we can continue to do that. I encourage the officers, when they do have those extraordinary things, that they start their shift late. They maybe take off early to try to save that money. So that's how we do control that that overtime that we have. So we have been trying to do that, but we can't control everything. We can't decide when something big's going to happen, or when an officer leaves us, or stuff of that nature. So,
Adam, is there any overtime at all paid out on this list, you say, or there isn't any overtime at all paid out?
On this list right here?
Well, for anything on 2013?
Yes, for 2013, right now we are at $3,225 paid out in overtime. But we've saved $6,975.77 by taking that, starting at the end of the shift, just changing the schedule around. So getting some time off instead of getting paid cash, which is beneficial to both the employee and to us. I think everybody has a all-city tax levy rate.
That's for later.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's for the budget.
That's
Okay.
the budget one.
Sounds
This one is your thing here.
Yep. I did receive a letter from Councilmember Bunke, and I learned a lot. I know that Mr. Bunke is very smart and He is dedicated to saving taxpayers' time and not wasting money. And I think that we're on the same page in the aspect that we want to do both of those, but we still have to provide the service. And I was asked for some different numbers to provide to Mr. Sarvey, and we did get those numbers to him. Do we want to go into that now, Steve, or what we do?
I think it's up to the council if you have any questions about the analysis that was done or the agenda statement that I put forward in support of the 3 full-time officers. We looked at several different scenarios. We talked through quite a few different ways of providing service, different options. And when it comes down to it, although there is a savings if you just look at the all-in cost of a full-time patrol officer versus part-time, when you add in the expenses of training and equipping an officer, that savings is quickly evaporated. In order to have a sufficient pool of part-time officers, and so you don't get to a position where you're relying on 1 or 2 of them, and they might get to the point where they meet our test for getting prorated benefits, which would defeat the purpose of saving the money through a part-time officer. We felt that we would need quite a number of additional part-time officers. We have 10 to 12. It could be 6. It could be 8. It's hard to say exactly what that number is. I think that's Chief Ide's best estimate based on his recommendation, based on his experience, to get those hours covered. And so unless there's any questions, and you have my recommendation and the supporting information that I think goes along with it.
I do thank the chief for this information. I mean, we talk about constantly controlling overtime costs. The chief clearly is actively controlling overtime costs. He's demonstrating this here. So I do thank the chief for that.
Yeah, we've noticed that. You know,
Get those
we
monthly.
follow those. You know, try to monitor and understand what's going on by, you know, the best we can. And while I appreciate the compliment, I might question your judgment on my intelligence level, but I do appreciate the effort that you put into it. And full disclosure, Steve and I had a chance to talk Saturday morning and go over these numbers, and I learned a lot more too about how exactly all of the numbers work and work together, or work apart, if you will, too, the other way. So, you know, I appreciate having that understanding to a deeper level than I had before. And I certainly understand what the position, I guess, that it puts the department into to train up